Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of the Ghoul Friend Hour. Thanks for joining. I'm your host, Morgan Feza, and today we have the Halloween queen, Rachel Foust. And she is also the owner of Wiggle Butts, which is an absolutely amazing dog walking company. They've took care of our little pooches, and Bosley and Luna absolutely love her and her gang. So Rachel, I'm going to pass the torch to you and have you introduce yourself.
I'm so excited to be doing this. Like when I saw that you were starting this, I was like, this is so much fun. Like my love of spooky and ghosts and Halloween. And like, I couldn't be any more excited. I own a small business here in Delaware. Secret season, we are opening a training facility. I'm going to be announcing that on Saturday. So it's just a secret right now. So we are opening a facility for all of our training endeavors and community events and stuff. And I'm like, I'm already planning a Halloween party. So like, come on now. So
I'm so excited. Congratulations.
thank you. Thank you.
I knew eventually it would come because I was like, you guys are just getting so big and you're doing such a wonderful job. I'm like, they have to at some point open up something.
Oh yeah. The right space just kind of happened. I've been saying the universe just is going to universe and it's going to happen. And it did. So we are very excited to make this transition.
Yay! Little applause, little celebration. I'm super excited for you. So, how did you get into I guess really everything spooky and macabre and just
Yeah, so my mom, when we were kids, always threw like great Halloween parties. It was always like fun and spooky, and she was the one that kind of like got us into this. My whole family, my sister, we're all kind of Halloweeny and love Halloween. So sorry, I'm just gonna put my phone on do not disturb right now.
I'm like mine. Literally, I hate it because it's connected to my computer. And like, I was in the middle of a podcast the other day, and everything just started blowing up, and I was like,
everything's dinging, and I'm like, oh gosh, please stop. So my mom was like a huge would decorate the house. We'd have pumpkin carving parties. It was a big like family thing. So like, I just associate that with like family. So like, I love dressing up. It's a huge thing. Like, I have to like plan in advance. And like, sometimes I'm like, people ask me and they're like, what are you going to be for Halloween? Because I usually I'm really good at it. And I'm like, I don't know. It's a lot of pressure. Last year I went as Sally from Nightmare Before Christmas and literally painted myself blue. And like, I was literally blue.
I love it though. I love the dedication.
Oh yeah. So I usually have on Halloween costume. And then like for our costume party, I've kind of taken over the tradition in my family of taking a Halloween party. My brother, they do 4th of July and the Easter and stuff like that. I'm like, I call Halloween. And so I actually start decorating my house in about September. I remember when we moved here was September. And I started that was the first thing I unpacked. I was like, the neighbors are going to be like, oh my gosh, crazy people are moving in because I have a witch and a cauldron and all this stuff on my porch.
But it looks so amazing. And I remember that too, because I remember you were like gathering stuff and I would see this thing and you'd be like, all right, who has a witch? Who has a cauldron? And I'm like, oh, this is going to be great. And then the end result looked really good.
I literally she's 6 foot, she's animatronic witch. And she's just full up in my attic. So sometimes when I go up there, I'm like, hey girl, I'm like, she kind of spooks me occasionally, but it's fun. I'm just like, hey, how's it going? So I was like, I'm not taking this apart. So I literally just grabbed her and I took her upstairs.
I swear we bought Sam from Trick or Treat.
Oh, I remember going into your house. And it was dark and that little thing is in the corner and my heart dropped down my butt. And I was like, okay, all right, okay.
I literally was going to say that it scared so many people. So, I mean, that was literally the perfect statement right there.
That's fun.
My neighbor had to come over and walk Bosley and Luna and she's like, she took a picture and she's like, oh my gosh. I turned the corner and I thought there was a creepy child in your house.
There's a little person in the corner.
I was like, oh, I should have warned you. I'm so sorry.
Fallen victim to that.
But I had to show off. So me and Rachel literally did not coordinate this. We both hopped on, and I was like, if this doesn't say that we're absolutely
Yes.
Halloween obsessed, I don't know what does.
And this is just like normal, like
Every day.
Like this is, I have one, and I'm pretty sure it's similar. It has Michael Myers on it. It has like, it's a gray sweatshirt and it has like red blood splatters on it. And that one gets me like these looks in public. Like,
Is that the one that I was like wondering where you got that one? I think that's what I'm thinking of.
maybe it's one of my favorite ones. So
I was like, it looked so good. I could go broke. And like the other day when you posted your Max likes your yabos, I was dying and I'm like, I need that shirt. I'm like, that is so perfect.
Zach was like, what does that mean? And I was like, get out of here right now. I was like,
we automatic grounds for separation. I'm
yeah,
like,
bye.
yeah, bye. We need you to know what Hocus Pocus is, and you need to know it line for line.
Yes. Peach we started watching, last year, the Three Silly Witches. That's what she calls it. So we've kind of gotten her into Halloween mode of like, hey, it's just for fun. It's not scary, so
I love Peach.
Ingrain that into, I was like, hey, if you're going to stick around here, it's going to get spooky. So, she would see the witch and be like, a little hesitant to it. I was like, look, it's just pretend. I said, you just watch me build it in the house. So
that's true. And that's good though. Cause like I was just saying on the podcast the other day, I'm like, we need to like start getting like the youngsters into Halloween. And like I'm tired. I mean, like I like Christmas, don't get me wrong, but I'm tired of all these Christmas people, including my husband.
Yeah.
I'm like sick and tired of you. I don't want any more Christmas. I'm like
I'm allowed to decorate early for Halloween, but no decorating early for Christmas.
No. I'm like, it's all great and stuff. Like I do like the warm and cozy of it. I'm like, but I would much rather curl up with my Halloween blanket and my creepy Sam in the
pumpkin candle and yes.
Mm-hmm. All the feels. But I have to say, so totally unrelated, I must have watched this video of Peach like 20,000 times. So for those of you that don't know, Peach is Rachel's just absolutely fabulous daughter, and she's always living her best life. And so like she cracks me up because Zach posted a video of her singing to Michael Jackson.
Oh God, I sobbed hysterically at that video.
She just like, oh my gosh, she's like, the windows are like down and like
I'll pull it up.
Yes, I'm like, we have to show everybody this video. Like when you think of somebody living their best life, like Peach is just absolutely enjoying the wave. Like she's just,
I got this video and I cried and like it was hilarious, but like I was cracking up so bad. Oh, here she is.
She like knew a word for word.
Yes. We're getting into that kind of phase now.
She is so fabulous and I love it. I'm like, every time you post something of her, I'm like, oh, what's Peach up to today?
Oh gosh, look, this is her. She's bouncing around upstairs right now. It scared me. I don't roll like that. I've heard some things in this house. Look, this is the vibe the other day.
Oh yeah. See, that's what I'm talking about. She's always living her best life. Like she's just constantly in a state of fabulous.
Yes.
Honestly, we should like make a t-shirt that just says hashtag live like Peach.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she lives her best life.
I love it. But so since you just kind of touched upon it, I have always followed like your little ghost stories that like you and Zach will post about your house.
Oh gosh.
You have to fill everybody in.
So we moved in here in like 2020 and he used to work out of the basement. We have a finished basement and there's another area like not finished. So like I call them like the creepy sides because, it's not finished with the washer and dryer in there. And so he would work down here in the office and he tells me one day, he's like, I heard like a cat down here. And I was like, what are you talking about? And he's like, I heard this cat. And so we looked everywhere. We were like, there's a cat. It sounded like, cause he got it on video. And so we're like our little ghost cat, because like, it just kind of comes out of nowhere and you hear it faintly. And like, we've looked everywhere. We're like, there's got to be a cat stuck somewhere, or it's outside or something, this little faint like meowing. So like we always crack up about the ghost cat in the basement.
Oh my
And
God.
then we've heard like where our living room is, like a empty part of our attic right above, and literally like footsteps like right above us. I was sitting here one day and I was like, no, because he had
Oh,
told
it's
me
just a
about
really
it.
big raccoon. It's a really big bird.
I would hope so. I would hope that. But just like little things like that, like hearing things. And when my aunt has come to like watch my dogs if I'm out of town, she's like, something's definitely, she was like, I've heard things, like toys will start going. And I'm like, don't tell me that, because I always joke. I'm like, yeah, the basement ghosts, and like, it's fine. But like just little things like that, like not, oh, hey, something happened, but just like kind of like random little occurrences like that.
Oh my gosh. So have you ever looked into like the history of your house?
I have not. I know that the people who lived here before, I think was somebody's grandparents' house. So I haven't really looked into
It's kind of like, do you even want to look into it? 'Cause it's
exactly.
like maybe it's just better left unknown.
Exactly. Cause I'm just like these little noises here and there. And it's just like, what? Or I have a camera down here, and sometimes like that's the one that's always like motion in the basement, motion in the basement. It's just like these like little cloudy like things sometimes. So I'll just get the notification. I'm like, oh, the ghosts are in the basement. They're like doing their thing. So
Oh my
yes.
gosh. But I love it though, because I'm like, as long as it's not like
No, this
scary.
okay. There is one scary story. And you know how kids are like, kids know it. Like
Yeah.
so of course, don't listen. Don't listen. She's like peeking over. So, 3 a.m. rolls around, and why is it always at night? This doesn't
I
happen.
don't know. I don't know.
So 3 a.m. rolls around, and we hear bang and screaming and running. And it's her. She's running into our bedroom. And so she's like, there were spiders in my bed, spiders in my bed. And we're like, what? We're like, okay, it was like bad dreams. So we turn on all the lights, we turn on the TV, and she keeps like freaking out about spiders. So the next day she tells us, she said, last night when I ran into your room, I was ready to move when she said this. She said, I looked in the living room and there was a spooky man, and he was scratching out our eyes in the pictures.
Okay, I was not ready for that. I didn't know where that was gonna go, but I did not know it was gonna go there.
I was like, so I call Zach and I'm like, hey, your kid just said something. He said, yeah, about the spooky man scratching out our eyes in the pictures in the living room. And I said, okay, I'm just glad we're on the same spray, or on the same wavelength here, because I was just like, what?
You're like, oh, leave
okay,
it.
I gotta pack up and we're out of here. So her Gigi so kindly made us some spider spray that we sprayed around the house, and there were no more spooky things around the house. So yeah, that is like
that. Yeah, that would have been like, I honestly think I would have just like, just as like a reaction, I probably would have just thrown up. Like, I was like, right, well,
she literally said that to us, and I was like, what? She's like, yeah, the spooky man in the living room. And it was like not Halloween time, so it's not like she could have like nothing around the house, like was scratching out our eyes in the pictures. I was like, no.
That honestly, that took me so off guard, because I thought you were gonna say something like, oh, like she saw somebody in the corner. But then when you said like the scratching thing, I'm like, automatic grounds for moving out, packing.
I was like, I literally have to tell that story, because like it was
terrifying.
the creepiest thing. And I'm just like, okay. I was like, I got zero sleep that night, and like it was, and she just pulled that out like the next day, like, oh, hey, by the way. And I was just like,
you are not about to just skirt past what you just said. Like, oh my gosh. Honestly, I think I'm gonna be thinking about that now for like the next couple of days. That's like my worst fear. And like, I hate, so like, before having Maisie, like I hated baby monitors. I've just never liked them because they just freak me out. So it's
Mhm.
like when I had Maisie and we got her baby monitor, I was like always like staring at it. And I'm like, I don't know why I do this to myself because I'm so afraid that I'm gonna see something just something. I don't
Yes,
know what, but
yes.
something. And I'm like, I hate like even when I wake up in the middle of the night, like I don't even want to look at it because I'm just like, knowing me, I'm gonna like look over and be like, oh my gosh, what is that shadow? Because she's done that to me before where like she's left. She has like this like one of those heavy like wormy animals.
Mhm.
So like it like sits straight up because of the weight, and like the eyes on it are like glowy buttons. So like the one day it was like it literally was probably like 1, 2 o'clock in the morning, and I got up to go to the bathroom, and I looked over and I was like, what is that? And, like I had an absolute heart attack, and like what is staring at me through the crib? And I'm like, is that her? And so then I'm like actually looking into it. I'm like waking Matt up. I'm like, Matt, there's something in her crib. I'm like,
My God.
it's just her stuffed llama. But I'm like, this is why like I love
I'm
spooky
serious.
stuff,
Kids.
but I'm like, I can't handle it.
Yeah, real spooky stuff, especially with like kids. I'm like, they can see some stuff. I believe it.
That
Like
and
people,
dogs.
I listen to a lot of true crime podcasts. And so, some of them do like when like listeners write in and stuff like that and talking about like reincarnated kids when they're like, hey, I was like this and this happened. And it's just like, where do they come? Like, you can't just come up with that. Like, you
No.
can't just
No,
the
and
one.
like honestly, I will never forget. So this is, and I have so many creepy babysitting stories. So this family, when I was a teenager that I worked for all the time, their son was autistic, so he was not allowed to watch like a lot of like he never was allowed to watch anything except for like stuff that was approved, and a lot of times it was just like really like plain Jane Disney movies, like no action in it. And they I don't remember like for I think I was away. So they hired somebody else to watch him. And this lady was like weird. They said they came home and there was like vomit in the bathtub, and there was like they said it looked like she was doing some like weird shit. Like she was doing some like ritualistic shit in their
Oh my
house.
God.
And so it gets even scarier. So like they're telling me this story because what had happened was when I had come back, or for whatever reason I started babysitting again, we're sitting at the table and he's eating dinner and he was like, can I color? So I was like, yeah. So I got his paper and everything for him. And he keeps telling me about this friend Emily. And like, so I'm like, all right, like imaginary friend or whatever. So I was like, oh, and he's like, she's standing right behind you. And I was like, okay, like everything's fine. Everything is totally fine. And so I was like, well, I said, why don't you draw you and Emily and we can hang it up in your room? That was the biggest mistake I've ever made in my life. I don't know why I thought that was a good idea. Like I was like trying to make it friendly and happy. And what he drew next, Rachel, I could have thrown myself into a wood chipper. Like I was like, toss myself out the window, I'm leaving this
God.
kid.
Oh
He
God.
draws this absolutely horrible demon looking thing, this girl with like jet black hair, red eyes,
They always
teeth
have the red
like,
eyes.
oh my gosh, I'm looking at this thing, so I was like, I'm gonna put this aside for mommy because like this was so out of character for him. And I was like starting to like my upper lip was sweating. I was like, this is not good. Like I was freaking out.
No.
So like his mom came home, and this is when I found out about this like babysitter. They said that she looked totally normal, was like an older lady, like they met her through like a church program.
She
And
doing exorcisms? What was happening there?
that's what I'm saying. So like nobody knows what took place. And this went on for like this Emily thing went on for like a while. So like I would babysit for them, and their house always gave me like the heebie-jeebies because like at nighttime it would get like really, really dark, and like it was just like quiet, and he started to like have like these night terrors, and like he was just, there was a lot of weird stuff going on. So like finally I was like, I can't babysit anymore. Like I was like, I'm so sorry.
I'm real booked.
I was like, I can't do it, because I was like, I'm gonna have a stroke if I keep working here, because I'm so scared every night. But like they were like, yeah, they were like, she was like, she stole food out of their pantry and like just weird stuff. And I was like, that is the scariest freaking thing I've ever heard. So like, yeah, kids freak me out because they say some off the wall stuff, and I'm just like, I believe in this stuff, so I can't even like discredit like what you're saying right now.
Exactly. That's why I was just like, oh yeah, like I'm like, get me some freaking sage and stuff like that. I was like, we're getting this creepy guy out of here.
Can we just get a fire hydrant with like holy water and just put
Exactly.
the
I'm like,
house
let's
down?
wash it down in here.
So to kind of like segue, now that we're talking about like scary kids, so our topic today is we're going to talk about the Villisca Axe Murder house. It's a hot topic, and the reason I like got the idea was because we recently just had John Bullard on here, and he was saying that I asked him what was the worst case you have ever worked on, and he said honestly, he was like, one place I will never go back is the Villisca Axe Murder house. He's like, it totally lives up to the hype. It is so scary. Like it's bad. And so I was like,
a 4.3 star rating on Google, I found out.
go ahead, fill them in, Rachel, fill them in.
Oh, so I'm Googling, and when you just put it in, like, you know how those little like business profiles come up and it says that it has 4.3 stars, and I'm nosy and I'm like, why does this house have 4.3 stars? Like, what's going on here? And it's just a bunch of old people complaining about, oh, like they charged $10 for a tour and it should have been a $7 tour because it took 15 minutes and our tour guide was snotty and da-da-da. And I'm like you had said, you're going into a murder house. Like, relax.
This isn't like a Disneyland attraction. It's
Exactly.
not like 30 minutes to walk through. It's literally like some of the reviews I even saw were like, people are like, I can't imagine that 8 people were in this house because
tiny.
it's so tiny. So it's like, what do you think is like, you're
not like to shake hands with a ghost or what?
Like they wanted like the VIP experience, and it's like, no, like it's literally a very small old house.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be hanging around in there.
No, but apparently they do overnights for like $438.
Wow.
And I was reading like some firsthand accounts of like people who stayed the night, and I'm like, you have balls of steel, dude, because like there's no way. Like I just don't know if I could. Like, how do you sleep?
Yeah, I don't think I think I read some of that too, where it's like you just get that like heart racing feeling, and I'm like, I would not be able to sleep. I'd be sitting up somewhere. Like,
no, it just, yeah, I feel like, because me and Matt have slept in like haunted hotels before. We didn't know they were haunted, but they've turned out to be
surprise haunted.
Yeah, and I'm like, I did not sleep like at all, and I'm like, I don't know how like you go into it and you're like, oh yeah, a whole family was like slaughtered here, and
exactly,
I'm gonna have sweet dreams.
Yes, this is gonna be real nice. It's gonna be a fun time.
I'm like, let something even like tickle my foot and like I'm out. Like I couldn't do it. So I guess we'll kind of get into the story of the Villisca Axe Murder house. So basically what happened was or actually I'm going to read it word for word so we don't get anything wrong. Okay, let's go here. So basically on an evening, the Moore family, I believe it was, right? I'm like, I studied this so much and I'm still going to forget stuff. So the Moore family went to a church gathering or whatever it was, and they were gone pretty much all day, came home at around 10 p.m. And everybody went to bed. And then early the next morning, their neighbor realized that she got up at 5 a.m., was doing her normal routine. And like, this was literally like Do you have the date?
It was like 1912, because I
Yeah,
remember that I had seen something that in their like community it bumped off the Titanic sinking. It was the same year
yeah, I was
that
gonna say the same year.
this mystery, like this like case, like bumped it off of the front page of, the Titanic sinking.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's
Yeah.
wild.
Yeah.
But I know that this was like a big deal because like this was kind of before like serial killers were a thing.
Mhm.
So it says June 10th, 1912 in Villisca, Iowa. So it's a really small house. And basically this family comes home 10 o'clock. Next morning, neighbor notices, hey, like it's 5 a.m. They're not up yet. They haven't done any of their chores. So she goes over, lets out their chickens. And then by 7, 8 o'clock, when like the house was very quiet and still nobody had come out, she was like, okay, like something is off, something's kind of weird. So then she decided to call Mr. Moore's brother. I think his name was Josiah or
Ross.
Ross. Oh my gosh.
Josiah was the guy.
I'm telling you, I'm like a freaking hot mess.
Too many names.
There's too many names. Yeah. So calls the brother Ross. And he comes over, and then that's kind of like when they were discovered. So he went around and noticed that all the windows, the curtains had been closed except for 2 because they didn't have any coverings. And so eventually he found a key that worked for the front door and then got inside, and that's when he discovered the family.
Extra children. There were extra kids with them from that kids program.
2 extra children that like literally were just having a sleepover, which I think is so sad. Like they just wrong place, wrong time. And I'm like, that's terrible. And I think that they were so it was 2 adults, 6 children total. But what I thought was so weird about this case was all like the oddities surrounding like the things that they found in the house. Like that gave me the heebie-jeebies.
Yes.
So like they had essentially come to the conclusion that this house was like there was like bacon slabs and like all like everything was covered in the house, like
any
windows
surface that you could like see yourself in, like a reflection, like
yeah, which like back then they typically did after people died, so like people didn't get trapped in because they believed like mirrors were portals. And so like anytime somebody would die, they would freeze the clock, right? If I remember correctly, like they would like stop the clock at the hour of death and they cover everything in the house. And so like I was like, that's really weird for like you literally came in and you bludgeoned this entire family to death, but like then you covered all of these reflective surfaces, including using their own clothes to cover them. So like he covered all the bodies. But like I said before, it was weird because they found like slabs of bacon. They found a water bowl that like the perpetrator cleaned himself in, and there was a meal that was prepared by him is what they suspected but not eaten. And then like yeah, it's weird. Like that's just I just think that's so like psychotic. Like you have to be like deranged.
That's like BTK, who would always like drink a glass of water and like leave the cup as his little like, oh like
that's so like it's just like it makes you think like these people have to be seriously cold.
Yes.
Like just absolutely dead inside. Because like I get emotional if I even kill like a bug. I'm like, oh my gosh, he's not gonna come home to his family. And I'm like, then you got people over here like wielding an axe, killing an entire family, and it's just like, oh, let me just like fix up a PB&J and but I'm not gonna eat it.
No.
But another creepy part to this was, so like we said before, the house was really, really small, but like there was like kind of like it looks almost like a crawl space door, but it led to an attic. And when they started to kind of investigate the crime, there was like really strange things that they were noticing, and they had come to the conclusion that this person was literally hiding in the attic and stayed there from like the morning all the way until 10 p.m. And they said that they think that they were killed between midnight and 5 a.m. And I'm like, can you imagine? Like, I mean, we hear stuff about that all the time, like people hiding and like living in people's like attics,
Yes.
or like, I'm like, that freaks me out. Like, I don't like, because I have like the attic pulled down like in my closet, and I'm like, anytime I hear a noise, I'm like, what if somebody's living up there and I
Someone's in
don't
the
know
attic.
it?
Well, hopefully if anyone was in my attic, they would see the witch and then like be like, oh God, not here.
Oh, somebody's up here, just fall out of the
Yeah.
attic and then takes care of business for you, right?
Yeah.
Um, but so I mean, like, so when you were reading this, like, what were some of your thoughts?
So it's just, I think the whole true crime stuff is just like, why would somebody do this? Like, it's just so fascinating about like, why would a human do this? Like, what was wrong with you that like this nice little family coming from church with all these kids, like they were the ones. And so I think the fact of like, they were just like, well, we're not sure who did it. And it's just one of a huge cold case too. Like
Yeah.
that stuff kills me. It's like, and then they never found out who did it. And it's just like, gosh, like I understand, obviously back in the day, they didn't have as much technology and stuff as us. I did hear that I had listened to one of the podcasts that I listened to, they covered this. And so I was just kind of listening to it. And they said by the time, they called the sheriff or whoever was in charge back then, and before the Iowa National Guard could get there, people in the town were like just coming in the house and like wandering around and like seeing the bodies and things like that. So that was like,
and totally, like, I remember somebody touched upon the fact that like if this would have happened in today's day and age, like this person probably would have been caught immediately, because they were kind of careless in the way that
yes.
they did things. But what's even creepier is the fact that like they said that because the people were just coming in, it was just like morbid curiosity, that they literally tainted all the evidence. So even if they would have collected something, it would have already been ruined.
Yes.
So it's like, I mean, this case is kind of screwed from the get-go. And like some of the other like oddities that I thought were strange were they this person, whoever it was, they said that like there was a shoe that was near one of the girls' beds, and it was, when they walked upstairs, it was on its side, and there was a huge puddle like kind of leaking out of it. So they had kind of come to the conclusion that when one of the girls was, I guess, bludgeoned, she scooted her way, like just out of, I guess, her body reacting. She had scooted down in the bed and her foot was hanging off the bed, and it just filled the shoe up. And they realized like the shoe was full, but he must have come back up, even though they were completely dead, and attacked them a second time, and he knocked the shoe over in the process. So it's like, it just makes you think, because you're like, why did you come back to like bludgeon them more when
So that's
you
like a personal, like you taking that
yeah
like personal.
yeah like I'm like, there people still like go there and they try and figure out the mystery, and I'm like, I mean, I can see why, because there's so many odd angles to this. It's like, one, this person was never found, which I think is super scary. But
Yes.
two, like just the way that things were done, it's like, why did you leave a 3-pound slab of bacon like
Yeah.
living room?
Yeah. And left one, and I think covered the other one. Like
Yeah, like it
it's
was just
like,
like I it just doesn't make sense to me. And one thing that I also read, so they had two suspects. One was actually tried. So, and I kind of want to pick your brain on this, Rachel, because like I have my own theories, but the first suspect was a guy named Reverend George Kelly, and he was a traveling minister. And they said that he like left abruptly the next morning at like 5 a.m. It was like, yeah, 4:35 a.m. and like for no reason. And he was oddly like not like obsessed with the family, but he had like seen them at the church event, and there was a lot of things that just really connected the dots, and I think that they were like onto something. But then there was another gentleman by the name of Frank F. Jones, and he was a Villisca resident as well as the Iowa state senator. And so I thought it was very peculiar that they had this guy who was presenting, Reverend George Kelly, they said was presenting very erratic and crazy. And then you have somebody who was not presenting that way at all and was literally the state senator. And I'm like, how did they come up with these two complete yin and yangs, like opposite ends of the spectrum? But I feel like after reading about, well, you know what? I'm going to ask you what you think.
So after they kind of narrow down to those two, they were like the heavy hitters in this. Like you had said, the state senator, I have here that it was, people thought it was because Josiah, like the dad, left his store for a competing store and started his own thing. And I'm like, well, that's pretty petty. Like that would be pretty lame. That you're upset that, he started a whole nother business like yours. Sorry. But I find the minister more like convincing, since he was kind of actually tried and was like, people were a little like suspect about him. And what I had found out, like you said, that he left like abruptly. It says that he left on the train in the morning after the murders. And it says allegedly told passengers about 8 dead souls in Villisca who were butchered in their beds. So
I didn't hear that part.
Before this even came out, like before they had time to discover and stuff like that, he's telling people on this train about these murders.
What?
So
I didn't hear that part. So that just is like the nail in the coffin. That totally solidifies. And they said that like the jury was like not convinced because of his like crazy behavior. But I'm like, if I was in a jury and like the math was mathin', like I was like, all signs are like pointing to this guy.
You're a reverend. You met these people at church. Like, wouldn't you feel pretty guilty? And then you're like covering all the surfaces and stuff like that. And then now you're telling people, like, and it says he signed a confession months later saying God had whispered to him, suffer the children that come on to me. And it's just like, he confessed this to this jury, and the jury was like, nah, that's okay.
What? Like, I want to know, like, what were y'all doing in 1912? Like,
exactly. And what I had heard too on the podcast was that this man was a little like suspect in his own, that he had put an ad in a newspaper for like a church secretary type person. He would talk to these women and then ask for scantily clad photos of them.
Oh, and so one of the other details that I feel like ties into that is, so they said that, and trigger warning, I am going to kind of talk about sexual assault a little bit. One of the girls was found with her without undergarments. Her nightgown was hiked up, like clearly with her noni bits hanging out, and like she had a bloody handprint on her inner thigh, but they said that she was not sexually assaulted. So like I also thought that was weird. Like I guess I'm just confused, and I'm like, well, maybe they didn't do a thorough enough, like I don't know how you would
investigate back then.
Yeah.
They were talking about how a man came in and was like taking pictures, and like the townspeople were basically like, ew, what are you doing? And it's just like, he was basically ahead of the times. Like, you guys were walking around, poking around, but this guy taking pictures is like,
he literally froze the crime scene. Like, and I'm like, that's what they do today. And like the sheriff was like, all right, get out. Like, and it's like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
My true crime, and I think you could probably agree with me, my true crime self, knowing what I know today, is like screaming internally, because I'm like, why? Like, why did you desecrate every piece of evidence in there? And then the one guy that was actually doing the right thing, you were like, all right, like skedaddle.
Yeah, because it's like, what did they do back then? Like, were you taking fingerprints? Were you, it said something about they were sending bloodhounds from Nebraska to attempts to hunt down a suspect because, this was so like shaken the community, like nothing like this had ever happened before. But, at that point, you can't even, everything was so tainted. It was like, there were hundreds of people like coming in and out of here.
It's like, how is the bloodhound supposed to track down one particular scent when everything is? Yeah. I did hear, so one of the other things that I was reading was the fact that the fingerprinting had just like, and I didn't know this, in 1912 it had just like started. So it was like relatively new. Oh, I'm gonna choke to death on this podcast. Good Lord. So they were saying that like it wasn't perfected yet, but they had just started. Is that Peach?
My friend, yes. My assistant here.
Peach can always pop on to say hi.
You want to say hi real quick? Come here. Look at her spooky background. Come here.
This is a totally Peach friendly environment. Hi, Peach.
Hi.
See, isn't she just the cutest?
With the pumpkins. You like that?
Pumpkin.
You like Halloween?
Ghost.
Yeah. All right, catch on the flippity flip. It's like witching hour for my friend here.
Yeah, I'm like Maisie just went down for bed, so I was running late. She's so cute. I'm like, Maisie would be the same way if she was down here.
Yeah.
But yeah, so it's just an odd case. It's a really odd case. And like, I think it's just really scary because people were also asking, because like a lot of killers, especially like older killers on their deathbeds have had like a habit of like in their delirium, kind of like confessing to things. And like people were asking, like they were checking like hospices, or not hospices, but like, I don't think hospice is around then. So like they were saying that like they were checking with like some of these like hospitals where people would like die. So essentially what we call hospice today. And they were saying that they were trying to check everywhere to see if anyone had ever confessed anything like this on their deathbed, and still like nothing. And I'm like, that's so like literally took it to the grave.
See, these cold cases where it's just like nothing happens, like it literally kills me. It kills me. Like I'm totally on the like John Benet Ramsey. Like, come on now.
Oh man.
I have my speculations on that one, but like stuff like that where it's just like, well, we don't know. It's just like, come on.
And it's like, just give us the cases. Like
yes.
give it to us, because like if you guys are sick of your true crime cases and you don't want to look at it anymore, we gladly will, and we'll solve it.
Exactly. Exactly.
So I was also gonna say, here, so one
She likes witch hats. That's what she said.
I love it. I love it. Peach, are you a little witch?
Are you a witch? Come tell her come here real quick. Tell her where we like to go in Milford.
A witch store.
So Stone and Sage is one of her favorite places. And what do you like to get there?
Crystals.
Yay!
You have a whole collection, huh?
Yeah.
You're definitely crystal lovers in this house.
Like especially.
My husband just scared me. I was like, what does that sound? But yes, I was like, I love Stone and Sage. It's funny because I actually just called Kat and I was like, hey, so I got this podcast, and I was like, do you want to come on? She was like, oh yeah. So I was like,
so
yeah.
cool in there. They're so cool in there. And that store is just so like, you just go in and you're just like, like I love it.
Home.
I love it there. Yes.
I bought this really cute like little Cancer horoscope like incense holder.
I have one too.
Oh, you got one?
Yeah.
We're just twinning and we don't even know it.
Yes. The first time we went in there, they have those little cauldrons. So if you're shopping, it's like their little shopping baskets. So like you can put the stuff in these cauldrons. So my friend here, we went and they were like, do you want a cauldron? And she's like, yes. So she's filling this thing up. And she, didn't know that she was going to have to give it back at the end. was sobbing. She had to give it back. And so here goes my aunt, and she bought her cauldron. And so she carries it around the house, fills up stuff in it, just carrying around this cauldron. So
It's
yeah.
okay, Peach. I would have cried too, because like
I was
I
like,
didn't
give
get
it back. And she's like, we're not taking it. And I was like, no.
I love that though. Like switch out like these little like girly purses and give her a cauldron.
Yeah.
Like see, and this is why I say Peach is a whole mood. She
Yeah.
literally just encapsulates like the perfect little witch, and she just has like such spooky vibes.
Yes, definitely.
So getting back to Villisca, I read about this and I was like, this is like freaky. So did you read about the man who stayed there overnight and stabbed himself?
No.
So in 2014, it made like crazy headlines. So I was reading the girl who actually worked at the Axe house. She was there like all the time, like trying to like crack this, and she would always visit. And so finally they were like, you're literally here all the time. Like you might as well get paid. Like, do you want to work here? And I was like, honestly, girl, same, because I feel like that would be us 100%. They'd be like, you know what? Let me just
okay. Yeah.
But the girl was saying that typically like they would get all kinds of like ghost hunters, and they would pay that $400 or whatever it was and do like a night camp out. So there is like the house, and then in the back there's a barn. So when you stay there overnight, the house has no electricity, it has no plumbing. So like when you're in that house overnight, it's dark. Like you gotta like bring
I'm looking at
flashlights.
pictures of it right now.
Yeah, it's like, so the barn in the back has electricity and water. So like if you have to go to the bathroom, you have to leave the house in the middle of the night and walk to the barn. And you can hang out in the barn. I guess the gift shop's there too. So anyways, after that long-winded explanation, this guy comes in, and she said he was like very tactical looking, like he had like camo pants and like was like just had an attitude about him. And so he was like, I'm gonna basically like I'm gonna show these like ghosts what's up. And I'm like, first off, rule number one of ghost hunting,
Fight a ghost?
never provoke. Like you just don't provoke. I think everybody knows that. So like the girl's like, he comes in, and that's like the only thing he says to her is he comes in with like his older parents, which she was like, this is kind of strange, but maybe like they're just, I don't know, like she didn't really have a theory, but she was like, it's a little weird. So he like stays there, and his parents found him. He like went to sleep and found him like with a knife like plunged in his chest. And they were like, what the heck happened? So
like recent, like
2014. So like, I mean, too recent for comfort.
yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so the girl is like, she wakes up and there's all these news reports. There's like texts from her coworkers, I think. And she's like, what the heck? She's like, this cannot be happening again. Like, this is supposed to be like a fun place. And I'm like, well, not really, but I wouldn't call it fun.
Yeah.
So
2014. I just saw, yeah.
It's crazy. So then she says she comes into, I guess, one of the ghost hunters or something. They wanted to interview this guy. So they rented out the house, and he was coming back for the first time since this whole incident. So she said she comes into work and he's sitting there, and she immediately was like, you like I need to talk to you. So she says to him like, what the hell happened? And he like, she said he got very emotional and started to cry, and was like, this big burly man that came in and told everybody, oh, I'm going to show the ghost up. He's like now sitting in this lobby, like I think it was months or years after the incident, and
he survived.
He survived, and he's like hysterically crying. And the girl is like, he was like, I don't remember what happened. He's like, I was telling them like, show yourself. And he was basically provoking whatever was there. And then he said, I don't remember anything but waking up in the hospital. And they told me like I had stabbed myself. And he's like, but I don't know like how it happened. And so she said when he he said he wanted to, like, it ruined his life and he wanted to get on TV and like tell his side of the story because everybody's like, he's crazy, like he's delusional. And she said when he walked into the house for this interview, he immediately started to apologize to the house. And she said he was shaking, his voice was shaking, like he was terrified. And I just thought that was so scary because I'm like, that is exactly why we do not provoke the supernatural.
It's like, nope, you can do what you want.
I'm like, that's like the fact that like he had a hunting knife buried in his chest. And they were like, why did you bring like a knife? And he's like, well, he's like, I was traveling across the state and usually I carry like firearms on me, concealed carries. He's like, but I didn't know if that was allowed, so that I brought a hunting knife. And what he said, they made a rule afterwards. After this whole ordeal, they basically have now banned weapons. Like if you stay the night, you are not allowed to bring any type of anything.
You don't have to make rules because people do do things.
I'm like, oh my gosh, stupid games win stupid prizes. Yes. Like, sorry, dude, if you ever hear this, but I'm just like, it's not smart.
Yeah.
Peach is like, I can help with the pan situation. She's so cute. But yeah, so I read that and I was like, I had no idea. I've never heard that in any podcast. And I didn't know it was like apparently a really big deal and people are freaking out over it. So I was like, I would like to know.
I wonder how many people like live around there and like just people that live like the next door neighbors. Like I'm looking at this picture and it's just like, it looks like just a normal house next door. It's just like, do people just like live there and it's just like, hey, we're cool with this or what?
Yeah, it's just like a residential area, I guess. But I just like, I love that the one of the other things that this girl was saying was the fact that like people like groups of like women and like she said a lot of true crime people literally come there and they like search the house over like every inch and like are determined to crack this case. And I'm like, I feel like this is like the Pandora's box of true crime because nobody can seem to solve it.
No, especially because like the only things that were kind of left were like, it said something about a closet downstairs or something and it had a bag of clothes in it and it said it looked like somebody had like sat on it, like the way it was like smushed down, and then like these cigarettes in the attic like were left. So they were finding like clothes and like kind of weird out of place, like, hey, these weren't, their things kind of stuff.
That's so weird to me because it's just like, it's such odd stuff. And like, I know I keep saying that, but it's just like it just doesn't make any sense. And like, honestly, tell me if you felt the same. When I was reading this, like, and researching it, I found some like very eerie similarities between this and the Idaho murders. Like, I felt like people were like, how did this person, right? There's 8 people here. There's one of this guy. And he literally used, I forgot to talk about the biggest part. There were axe swings in the ceiling because he didn't even use the blade. He literally bludgeoned them with the blunt end of the axe. So like from swinging it upwards in an axe motion, he was literally hacking the ceiling and then bludgeoning them with the blunt part, which is just so, that's odd.
And it's just like you had said, there were so many people in the house, like nobody woke up, nobody, like, did you start with the parents so there weren't anyone to like,
and that's like what I don't understand, because you would think like, I mean, I were a nap fart and I would wake up like, I would, you know what I'm saying, like, or like, I don't know, like, I'm like, maybe it's just me, but I've never been in a deep enough sleep where if something like that was happening. And so like, I thought about like the Idaho murders, and I'm like, I also found that really strange because it was like, there was a roommate home. There's only one person that survived out of that. And like, there were how many people against one? So no. And like, nobody woke up. So it's like, it just makes your like your wheels turn and you're kind of like, I don't understand how this happens.
Yeah.
So I just thought that
People
was like, really weird.
feel bad enough to then cover the mirrors, the windows, the bacon, like
Yeah. And we have to reiterate, it was one slab of bacon out of the two that was covered.
yes.
The other one,
Yeah,
he
'cause,
just
just
willy-nilly
slabs of bacon just hanging out, like
and then like, yeah, made a meal that he didn't even eat. And I'm like, that to me sounds like a crazy person.
that's yeah. I was gonna say that's some crazy people stuff right there.
Like just like weird random stuff all over the house, and then like you're covering everything. Like that's why I kind of like have suspected that it's got to be this reverend guy.
That's what I think. Like they had the most like, hey, this isn't right with like this guy. Like the other guy was like, okay, yeah, like I don't know why they picked him, like you had said, but this reverend guy like being real weird about like, hey, I'm ditching town now and I'm telling people on the train that like there was this murder and they hadn't even discovered anything yet at that point.
And like honestly, it would be the biggest plot twist if it actually wasn't him.
Mm-hmm.
That would leave me with even more questions because like he just fits the.
Let me see if they did talk about this other guy. Andrew Sawyer. Here we go. There was this other guy and he like was obsessed with the murders too. And they talked about how he got this job at like the railroad track or some kind of, man jobs back in the day. I don't even know what it was. But that this guy was so odd and he would sleep with an axe, like to protect himself. So he got this new job and he was like basically a stranger in the town to these people and like got this new job and then was like freaking out these guys that it was like, this weirdo is now sleeping with an axe and like really obsessed like with these murders. Like
I think that was the one that I was thinking of, but I didn't hear the part of him sleeping with the axe. So that's totally incriminating.
And then one day he just kind of just disappeared. Like
why do people like, okay, like I just want to like I really want to know who it is, and like out of everything that you could do, why act that sketchy? Like
yes.
just take off. Like that's like the number one rule. Like you don't like commit a crime and then just skip town because that pretty much like incriminates you.
Yeah, it says he was interrogated but not charged. He was also obsessed with the murders and slept fully clothed as if he was ready to make a clean getaway. And he also slept with an axe by his bed.
That's so weird. And like
why start acting weird when something happens? Like
that's what I'm saying.
Like act weird before the whole time, or like just don't act weird after something this has happened.
It's just like so mind-boggling to me because like another thing that I just remembered was the fact that the axe was left at the scene. And they said that they made an effort, like there was a white mark as if somebody tried to clean it, but it was kind of just like half-assed. And it's like, again, what is the point of that? Like, it's either you clean it or you don't.
Yeah, you basically ruin the whole house. Like,
yeah, like I'm like, why would you like just swipe it and be like, all right, we're good? Like, and I can't. I think this case is just so weird. And a lot of the stories that I keep, like some of the haunting stories that I've read about, what freaks me out is like everybody keeps talking about how there's like a dark entity in like the attic, and that's where everybody has had like really bad experiences. Or I think it was one of the sisters' rooms. There was like a bedroom where they said where the girls were bludgeoned, and that was like a really active spot. And so like
so do you think like, here's my like wild, like this reverend goes to their house, and then encounters whatever like dark thing this is and is like I gotta get these people. Like, you think something like that could have happened?
That's kind of like, so I was thinking that, but I was also like thinking, I'm like, is the dark thing in the attic like the reverend? Because obviously he could be dead by now.
Yeah.
But like that's a good point, because if you look at like the Amityville Horror, right?
Yeah.
That man killed his entire family with a shotgun, and he claimed that like something made him do it. So it's like, that's a good theory. because it just seems
You
like
know.
way too like random that you just like were like, oh, let me go, let me be a good Christian today and like get to know this family until 10 o'clock at night, and then I'm gonna just like bludgeon them all.
Yeah.
Like that's not very Christian of you.
No.
That's not very Christian of you. So like like I'm just like I don't know what happened. So I feel like your theory would make a lot of sense.
Hey, I think any theory is, possible. Obviously, they have no clue. So,
No,
that's not the
Yes,
most far-fetched thing.
I swear. And it's just like when people like
Case
take
solved.
pictures and stuff there, like the stuff that they come up with, like in some of the I don't know if it was TripAdvisor, I was on something and people are like posting pictures and I'm like looking at some of them and I'm like, this is like really just, you could see from the pictures the orbs, and I'm like, this place is like very active. So like I also think I'm like, there's the family has to be stuck there. I would imagine, like with a death like that. I mean, maybe not all of them, but I feel like there's got to be something more than just what's in the attic if like the other room is like very active as well. Did you find any good like experiences?
I think on their website it talks about like how you can let me go back to it. There's like accounts on there.
I was like surfing Reddit, but I felt like a lot of the stories kind of seemed a little like they were reaching. And I was like, I don't really know.
Some ghost stories are like that.
Yeah, I'm like like it just, I don't know. I was like, I believe a lot, like literally, like I believe a lot, but some of the stories were a little bit like too far reaching for me. And I was like, okay, I don't really know that you like levitated and did a backflip and then flew out the window. Like I mean, maybe is it possible? Nothing is impossible.
Yeah.
But I'm not too sure about that because I don't even think they've seen people levitate during an exorcism. So yeah, I like clicked on
Like a lot of people talking about, cold spots and, gut feelings and
yeah, that's what I kept getting today. And I was like trying, like, I'm like, just give me something because everybody talks about this. I'm like, so where are all like the haunted stories?
we just have to go.
I'm telling you, we really should. Like, let's just pack up the car and like
Yep.
we'll just do it overnight. We need 6 people though. Apparently, if you don't have 6 people,
You can't get in for $10.
no, you can't get in for $10 or $7, I mean.
Yeah.
No, really, they really want you to bring 8 people to really just, deja vu, relive.
Yeah, I was about to say.
Bring on 8 people, pay the $400, and then hope you make it till sunrise. Let's see.
Oh, they even have like these creepy like toys in the bedrooms.
I don't like the doll. I'm just never gonna. My like nan, God rest her soul, such a lovely little Catholic lady. She's precious. So if my family hears this, I'm sorry, but like my nan used to always gift me like these porcelain dolls, and I still have like 2 or 3 of them. But like they give me the heebie-jeebies, and I've had friends before growing up that literally had them like around their room, and I'm like, actually, my mom said I can't sleep over. Like, I'm like, I think I need to go home.
Oh, there's like, it looks like kids' toys up in the attic because you know how like ghost people try to get kids to like play with them with like toys and stuff like that. That's what it looks like it's going on. Like,
no. There's this, did you see the one, I think it was by Anna Hyder, I think is her name, or Hidler.
okay, that's the one I think I'm on.
Road Trippers.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so we're looking at the same thing. Damn, I feel like we have like telepathy or something. We're just like we're just doing it up. Same pages, same clothes.
Yep.
So the bulletin board where she has the like pictures that are posted up there,
Mhm.
that one with like the scratch on that guy's back, like that's definitely, I don't think like, I mean, I don't know everything about like spirits or like demons and how that all works. That's kind of like the point of my podcast is I'm trying to figure some stuff out.
I'm
But but I'm like, I've always known that like anytime you get scratched like that, it's usually not a spirit. So
And do you see the one of the window?
it looks like the
There's a little
Amityville.
kid.
That's scary.
It looks like a little kid in there in that window. That's
I I just am not, I'm not cut from the same cloth as some of these investigators because they just
no.
walk on in there and they're like, is this so and so? And like the minute that like EMF reader spikes, I would be like, you know what? This seems kind of fucked up now. So
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and
yeah,
go.
I'm gonna just, I think I'm gonna turn around and fly back home.
Yeah. Like one of my favorite podcasts is Morbid, and they stayed at the Lizzie Borden house because they live like in Massachusetts and like that kind of area. So like they said that there was just some stuff happening there. Like it just is, I was like, oh God.
You know, so do you ever watch Sam and Colby?
I don't think so. It sounds familiar.
They're like YouTubers, but they went to the Conjuring house. And I watched like all their, because they go on all these like adventures, and they work with like, I think they're like some TikTokers, and they had like Selena Spooky Boo, the one that like farts in her sleep. I'm like, they had her on, and there were two episodes that like freaked me out. One was the Conjuring house because like they were like filming it and like just like on their camera, and it was like a YouTube video, and like just weird stuff was happening, and it was just giving me too much anxiety. I only got through like half the episode. But like they brought their friend who's like a I can't talk, a medium, and she was like, there's like something behind you, and they're like, and I was like, oh no, like I just, not in the Conjuring house. Like there's too much going on there. And then there was another one with Selena Spooky Boo where they did that oh Lord, what's that thing called where they like they basically take all your senses away and then they ask questions and they put like white noise or something on your ears. I forget what it's called, but it's a way of like, it's almost like the spirit box, but it's like different. So like they take away your sight and they put noise cancellation headphones that are running like white noise through them. And they ask questions and then you're supposedly will get answers through the headphones. So like you can't hear what they're asking. And then whatever you reply should probably fit with that question. And that's how they like you have to look it up. It's wild. And so they said something and like literally Selena like answered it like right away and it was spot on. And everybody was just like looking at each other like, what?
Oh my gosh.
But I feel like that's like my favorite like method to watch because I'm like that. I feel like that like is pretty tangible proof.
Yeah.
I would do that at the Villisca Axe Murder house. I would. I'm over here like shit my pants. I'm like, oh, I would never set foot in there. I'm like, you know what?
I'm gonna do it.
I'm gonna blindfold myself.
$5 for children and seniors to go though.
I could be like 70. We'll have somebody do our makeup.
Yeah.
We'll get like a little crow's feet, just age us a little bit, only $5.
Yeah. Disembodied footsteps, things moving, voices, shadows, bad vibes. That's how they describe it. I'm like, yeah,
bad vibes.
vibes aren't probably that great.
That was definitely a millennial that wrote that for sure. Bad vibes, no cap. I can't. I don't see like any other, like I'm like, people, let us know what's happening. Like tell us what you experience. Like we know that everybody talks about this place, so like what? So this person wrote the surprising things I felt when I visited an axe murder house. It's called one of the scariest, most haunted and creepiest houses in the Midwest. So let's see. Let's see if this person has some good experiences. Watch, she's gonna say some wild stuff in this.
Okay.
Oh, who's this cute little lady? So Martha Lynn, I guess her husband wanted to buy the murder house, and they were born and raised in Villisca, and she didn't want anything to do with it.
Yeah.
But their bid was accepted. That must have been a terrible feeling. Like, you're like, no, do not buy this house. And they're like, oh, your bid was accepted. And it's like, okay, well, now we're legally binded to buy this house. And that was in 1994. And they opened it up to the public. And I guess that they still owned it. They still own it. So she's basically saying that it said the winding narrow stairs to the upstairs bedroom where most of the murders happened creaked with every footstep. We found mirrors covered in sheets and dolls staring back at us from the kids' beds. The sun was shining into the windows, but that didn't help the sense of darkness here. It was hard not to feel the heaviness. The attic where the killer was alleged to have hidden felt claustrophobic. However, some paranormal investigators have said in the past that they believed it was lighthearted, teasing child spirits that usually want to make contact. She said, we didn't stay in the house very long. I stayed longer than my sister-in-law, who I found checking her phone near the barn out back. She really didn't like say anything. She said, if you're into this kind of thing, it's probably worth a stop. Wow, this was total clickbait. Way to let me down. But she said she'll stick to the field of dreams, that she won't go back there. So, I mean, there's got to be... I mean, people keep saying that, like, you could just feel it.
Yeah, I bet.
I really want to go now. But I'm scared because, like, curiosity killed the cat, and I'm not trying to. I'll, like, get really ballsy, and I'll be like, okay, I could totally sleep in the attic. And then the next thing you know, I'm going to get, like, thrown down the stairs.
Yeah, this person said that they had stayed, and they could hear, like, footsteps going up, like, to the attic. And so she said she had, like, texted her friends. It was like, anyone, like, walking around? And they said no.
Oh my gosh.
This person, they said they slept from 2:30 to 4:30.
Ooh, this one's good. It says, so it costs $4.28 a night to stay at the old haunted home, where visitors always report strange paranormal experiences, such as visions of a man with an axe roaming the halls or the faint screams of children. Let me tell you something. If it was freaking 3:00 in the morning and I'm hearing faint screams of children, you're gonna hear my faint scream as I'm getting out of the house.
Mm-hmm.
And it said, so they're kind of touching upon the guy that stabbed himself. So they said, you know, like, his companions found him stabbed in the chest. It was a self-inflicted wound. But this is what I didn't know. It said, the Montgomery County Sheriff's Office said Lorson suffered the self-inflicted injury at about 12:45 a.m., which was around the same time that the 1912 axe murders in the house began.
Oh my gosh. Oh.
Yeah, and so he's like, or no, I guess the owner was like saying that it was like really upsetting because, like, it was not the kind of publicity that they wanted, but that this guy like really did not want to talk about it. Oh my gosh, there's just like, there's layers.
There is.
There's layers. Like, this is just, oh, this is like horror story time. I don't know what I'm on right now, but I'm like in chapter 10 already, and I'm like, what? This isn't even the Villisca Axe murder. Yeah, so I think it's safe to say that this is just, there's got to be something demonic there. Like, I'm not convinced that there's not like, but I guess also the question comes down to, is it the house or is it the land? That's always the question. Like, I wonder, I don't know. Yeah, it's got me spooked. Spooked. I don't know why I do this to myself, I swear. I'm like, oh, let's start a spooky podcast and scare ourselves at
Yeah,
7
that's fun. It's fun though. It's
It
so
is
much
fun. I love being scared. But I'm like dead serious. We really should like organize like some sort of like haunted house trip. Like, we have you been to Fort Delaware?
I have not.
I've heard a lot of really spooky things about Fort Delaware.
Yeah.
And I don't know if you've ever been to Penn Asylum. We went there for my bachelorette party.
Mhm.
Totally normal, you know. That's what brides do before they get married.
Oh yeah. Yes.
But they like, it was honestly like really scary. And I did talk about this on another episode. They brought us down to the basement because like it's like a haunted attraction. And so, you know, you have your actors and stuff like that. But I'm like walking and I'm like, ooh, it smells like really old in here. And I'm like, is this all like fake equipment? Like, just like wondering. And like when I asked one of the staff members, they were like, oh no, that's like the original morgue. And I was like, oh, I'm
Okay.
like, that's good. I'm like, so your actors literally climb in the, what are those things? I don't even know what they're called. Like the filing cabinets,
Yeah, they're like a freezer.
like just the little, the body filing cabinets, you know, I
Yeah.
was like, because like as you're walking through, like that stuff just like they slide out of it and like scare you. But I'm like, I would be more scared being the actor. Like
Yeah.
having to like lay down in that thing, and this is like the legit morgue. And then they have like one of those like porcelain, you know, like in like old school movies, they have the porcelain like bath looking thing where they lay the body on.
Mhm.
That was in the middle of the room. And like it was so spooky. And I was like, oh, I mean, it's one thing to go to like a fake haunted house, but like when you go to an actual asylum and like this is a real morgue, I'm like, I don't know how I got here or what decisions I've made that I've come to this crossroads in my life, but
Yikes.
it's
We've
but
done one like the ghost haunted tour in Dover, like right on the green, where they talk about like the woman that poisoned the neighbor because she thought she was cheating with her husband with these chocolates.
what?
She lived in one of the houses like right on the green. And you know, she was poisoning people with these chocolates. And then we had done one in Williamsburg, like all the colonial parts.
I like
We had gone and done one there, and there's a part, I don't remember the exact story, but there was a church and they talk about like the curtain will start blowing and like start moving. And if that curtain didn't start moving, I was like, okay, I'm like, is somebody in there? And they're like, hey, the tour starts at 9:00, 9:30, start waving the curtain, or like what kind of is in there? But that curtain said like nothing else is moving around in there, but like it was pretty crazy because you know there is some creepy stuff happening down in there.
Yeah. That mm-mm. That's I don't after so like me and Matt, we go to Gettysburg a lot. And
Mhm.
my husband is actually an 85-year-old man who like like I swear they always say like, oh, you marry somebody like your dad. I'm like, I married my grandpa, like with tea. So like we go to Gettysburg and I'm like, I'm into the paranormal side of things. He is like could tell you the regiments, where the battlefield was. And I'm just like kind of like no disrespect to Gettysburg, but I'm like, I can't follow history. It's just not my thing.
No.
Unless it's haunted history.
Yes.
And then I'm like, I can soak up every detail. I'm like, but I'm looking at the battlefield. He's like, oh, this is where like the 12th Regiment was, and this is how they did this. And I'm like, I see fences and grass. Like,
Yeah.
but anyways, we had long wanted to stay at the Gettysburg Hotel because it's like one of the oldest buildings. And it was there during the Civil War and it was a field hospital. So I had some reservations because I was like, oh, I'm not too sure about the whole field hospital thing. We had an experience that was so terrifying. We literally left in the middle of the night and drove to my mother-in-law's house, which was like a 2-hour drive. And we didn't get there till like 2 o'clock in the morning. And even when we got there, I still didn't feel like I was far enough from Gettysburg to be like safe. Like, and it takes, to be honest, it takes a lot to scare me. Like, I love spooky stuff and I'll joke around about being scared, but like, it was terrifying. And when the thing that happened, I was glad that like Matt looked at me, but I also was like really mad at him in the moment because I didn't want him to acknowledge it. And he's that person.
God, you saw it too.
I'm like, I was like so happy that it happened to him too. But then it's like he looks at me, he's like, did you hear that? And I'm like, no, I didn't hear anything. I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, Morgan, I can see it on your face. Like, he's like, you look like you just like saw a ghost. I'm like, oh well. But it happened over a voicemail, and we had the voicemail like for a really long time. We have a recording of it somewhere, but like then the voicemail just like disappeared. So like I don't know who the recording is, but what happened was Matt went to like a bloody part of the battlefield, and he's like, it was called like I don't know. It's basically it was pretty much just everybody died. And I was like, I always get tired. Like whenever we go to Gettysburg, it's a lot. So like, I was like, I'm going to take a nap in the car. I left my phone at the hotel and I brought my camera with me. And so I'm like, I went up to a tower and was like taking pictures with my camera. And when I woke up, and I guess he was looking for me because he came back to the car and I was missing. So he was like, well, where the hell did she go now? So like he tried calling me, and then he said that it like disconnected, but then I called him back, and when he tried to answer, it was like beep beep beep. And he found me up at the tower, and he's like, I was trying to call you. He's like, and then you called me, but I couldn't answer. And I was like, how did I call you? I'm like, I don't have my phone. Like, it's at the hotel. And he's like, what? Like, so I like, it was weird. So like we got back to the hotel and he has a voicemail on his phone, and like he plugged his phone in and it was from me, but it said it was just like he just got it when we got back to the hotel. And I was like, I literally have not had my phone. So he plays this voicemail, Rachel. When I tell you, like, that wasn't even the part that scared us. I mean, it sent chills down my spine. It's a woman just cackling. It was so, I swear, I will literally find the recording. It's on Matt's phone somewhere, because I was like, record this with another device, because I just had a gut feeling that somehow it was going to disappear. So it's a woman cackling, and like, we just kind of like looked at each other, and before I could say anything, we heard the same exact laugh come from, like, we were in a suite. So there was the bedroom. And then when you go outside the bedroom, it's a whole living room. And like, we heard it come from the living room. And I was like, I looked at Matt. I'm like, it's one thing if it was on the phone. I'm like, but now we just heard the same exact thing from the living room. And then I like, before I could say anything or acknowledge, this was the moment where Matt was kind of looking at me. As soon as I opened my mouth and like went to say something, this laugh happened like right next to my head again. But it sounded like it was in the room with us. So like I'm pretty sure I left clothes there. Like I just started grabbing, like I just like in the duffel bag, like I was like, grab your shit, we're leaving. Something about it felt so dark and like evil and scary, because it wasn't like it was a very like malicious laugh. It was not like and we had other like incidents like leading up to this. Like I had woken up at like, I think it was like 4 o'clock in the morning. And when I woke up, I legitimately was like, did I break my arm in my sleep? Like I couldn't move it, couldn't move my fingers. And it felt like my arm from here down was just like debilitated. And I was like, I must have slept on it wrong. So like I turned the TV on and I have it propped up on a pillow, and I'm like, it'll start moving. Maybe it's asleep. It felt like somebody literally had sawed my arm off. And then all of a sudden, 2 seconds later, Matt wakes up and he like looks at me and he's like, oh my God, he's like, my leg. And he's pointing from like his knee down. And he's like, I can't, he's like, I'm in so much pain right now. He's like, do we have like Advil or something? And like, I'm looking at him and he's like, what are you doing up? And I was like, well, I woke up because my arm's not working. And now you're waking up because your leg's not working. And I'm like, what is happening? So then like we come to find out,
Gotta take your limbs.
yeah, we come to find out we're like telling this story to this bartender that we would always see at like one of the taverns in town. And she's like, you know that they used to use this thing called a like bone saw, and it was like that thin wire. She's like, they would wrap it and then just pull it, and that's how they would amputate. And she's like, a lot of people report like feeling like they've had their limbs amputated at the, and I literally looked at Matt and I'm like,
Oh my.
and then like that we left the bar that night, we left that tavern, that was the last place we went to, so we were telling her about all these things that we had happen, and we get back to the room, and then like that's when like stuff was weird. It was crazy.
Oh my gosh, that's insane.
Yeah, so it was like literally like the middle of the night, because like we every time we're in Gettysburg, we drive around, we usually stay out, we bar hop a little bit. So like I didn't have my phone, and like so when we got back, he was like, I'm gonna plug my phone in, and then it was like bloop, and his phone wasn't dead or anything, but it just like as soon as we got back, it just like pinged and it said voicemail from baby, and I was like, I didn't have my phone. Like, and so yeah, so imagine hearing that at like it was probably around 11:30 midnight, and we were just like, nope. We're like, we're driving to my mother's house because
Hey, at least you did that and you weren't like some people that are like, oh, we'll just stay in this haunted place where
it's just
we've
the
all
wind.
been, yeah, we've all been, messed with, and we'll just stay. It's fine.
It was, let me tell you something. You want to go to some haunted places? There is a lot of like scary stuff in Gettysburg. We've had like
Yeah.
I don't have the guts personally, but they have an orphanage there with like a really sordid history. And they like take you in the, like a pitch black basement, and people claim that like they turn the lights off. So like you go down there, they kind of give you the history, and then like they turn the lights out and it's pitch black. And like people have like said that they have literally had somebody whisper in their ear, and they've had people like children feel like they're tugging on your clothes, and like people have used like their flashlight, like their flash, to take pictures. So there's no like actors or anything, like they can see nobody else is there. And I was like, I don't think I could do that. I wouldn't have the
Yeah,
guts.
that's a lot. Especially kid ghosts. They're like,
Yeah, little pitter patter of like feet in like every horror movie. Have you like have you ever been to like any haunted spots?
besides those tours, and then we did what's the prison in, was it Philly? Eastern State.
Eastern State.
We did that one during the day. And we did like the whole tour of all the cells and like stuff like that. I don't remember. I don't think so. I haven't been to a ton.
I want to go to that death museum. Have you ever seen that?
No, I want to go to the one that they have in Tennessee.
Is that the one with Bonnie and Clyde's car?
Yes.
Yes, that's the one I'm thinking of. Yes.
I want to go there so bad. They have all of like the serial killer like memorabilia and stuff, and like,
and I think don't they have like the Kevorkian van?
I know they have OJ's Bronco. Oh my God. Oh my God. I don't even know where it went. I don't even see it now. Wait, there we go. God.
I was like, I can still hear ya.
Everyone wants to talk to me when I'm like doing things. Like nobody wants to talk to me any other time. Like now, like when I'm doing calls and stuff like that, that's when we gotta blow it up.
Yes, all the time. All the text messages, everybody wants to reply to the group chats, and you're like, oh, thanks so much.
Exactly. No, they have OJ's Bronco there. They have Ted Bundy's bug. Like
maybe that's what I'm thinking of.
A lot of like serial killer stuff.
I'm trying to think of, there's a museum that has like Dr. Kevorkian's like van, like where he did all those like assisted suicides, and like they caught some like crazy like EVPs and stuff, and I'm like, that's got to be eerie.
I may or may not have a Bundy bug tattoo.
Really?
May or may not.
Is it somewhere like that we could show the viewers?
So the girl I get my tattoos done, like I have all my Halloween, like my Frankenstein's Bride pinup, and so she was doing like these Halloween like flash sheets and like,
oh my gosh. Okay. You seen it here first, folks.
I was like,
Bundy bug.
It literally says Bundy bug on it.
Does it really?
Oh God. I'm like one of those people that they hate like true crime thing. I was like, she had this Halloween flash sheet and she was like, I have this, and I was like, do it. I was like, do it.
I love it though. I feel like all your tattoos look really good.
So
I want to get started on some Halloween tats. I'm slacking.
Oh yeah, like I love my little coffin with my haunted and like my little ghosts in the window. Like there's a little ghost in the window here.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I'm literally gonna live vicariously through you.
Yeah. Sometimes, when I meet clients and like it's like winter time, then they see me in the spring and like the summer, and they're like, oh, she's she's a little crazy.
Tatted up. I swear, if I could, I probably would be so tatted, but I'm like, help me, I'm poor.
Yeah, I just finished my Medusa on my leg too. So
my gosh. So are you gonna do more Halloween tats? Like, are you going for a full sleeve?
I don't know. I have this like little space like right here in between. So like I have this pumpkin that I've seen it and I love it so much. And I was like, if I want to put something there, it's going to be this pumpkin face. But of course I don't have like a picture of it up like right now, but it's just this really cool like pumpkin face.
Bad influence, but I say do it.
Yeah, I'm like, hey, it's just like my hair. I'm just like, it's just hair, it grows back, it's your body, just decorate it for fun. Like
exactly. Like the way I see it is you're just gonna look more badass as you age.
Oh yeah.
I mean, you're gonna see me in the nursing home and be like, all right, am I gonna mess with like Miss Dottie over there with no tattoos, or am I gonna mess with this hardcore bitch over here? Oh, I like that.
Something about it. I just love it.
I like it. And I feel like it would fit in so perfectly.
Yeah.
I feel like you need a Michael Myers tat. The knife, like the knife literally
my sister's go-to. She loves that original Halloween movie.
So is she a Halloween too?
Yeah. Not as much as me. Like she, like as soon as she comes over to my house in like September and I start putting stuff out, she's always like, oh my God. I'm just like, it's fine. One of the funniest parts too is that like I went to a private Christian school for middle school and high school, and they would always send out this letter around Halloween time about, we don't celebrate Halloween, we don't do costumes, we don't like bad. And my mom would always like put it right on the fridge, like right, hang that thing up, knowing that we were going to have a really fun Halloween party. And like, that'd be like the center of like attention is like this bad, like letter.
It's just like, oh, let me just.
Yes, that's what usually happened to it. But like she would crack up and she just like put it on the fridge and like magnet it up.
I can't like, listen, to each his own, like I am totally Christian, but like, I don't think I would never like keep my child from participating.
Yeah. I think it's just fun. Like, I'm not about like the gore and the cutting heads off, like that kind of stuff.
I'm not gonna like sacrifice an animal in the middle of my
kitchen,
like bring in Halloween. Like I'm just trying to get like a bucket full of candy and gain like 50 pounds.
Exactly. Yeah.
And watch scary movies.
Yes. And I just ordered today because I literally can't help myself. I saw it on TikTok, and when I see it on TikTok, like I have to buy it. I have to buy it. I'm easily influenced. I'm like the worst person. I literally ordered these earrings off Etsy, and they look like the sugar cookies that with like the pumpkin and the ghost on them, like the like Pillsbury ones. They're like earrings. So I was like, oh my God.
Link for that,
I was like, I have to have these.
Those are really cute. I what did I find? It was like it was something because I love Trick or Treat. I just like I love Sam and I love that whole movie. I don't know, there's just something about it that just makes me nostalgic. And it was like one of his, they were cool earrings, but they were like the lollipops. But they, oh my gosh, those are so cute.
They're so fun.
I love that like they legitimately look like the sugar cookie.
Yes, yes.
Gosh, this is a bad influence. This is a bad relationship, Rachel. Because I
Yes.
feel like you're gonna have me buying so much stuff.
Like I saw like everyone's talking about like Code Orange, like them putting out Halloween stuff on TikTok, and like they're like Joanne has this whole little like witchy section of stuff, and I'm like, oh, I was like, I gotta get there. I was like, I have to look at it. Like I'm not completely done, but like I have my little like officey stuff over here.
I
Like
love it though.
my go-to little psychic palm like stuff, and that stuff stays up like year round, and so.
I think my favorite Halloween section is Michael's. Like even if I don't like buy a ton of stuff, I just love to look at the little Halloween village. We always end up, we're trying to build our village. We buy like one piece a year as like a little tradition. And I'm like, every time we get a piece, I'm like, oh my gosh, like we're gonna have to buy like a whole separate hutch just to hold this thing.
My dad has a whole Christmas one. We buy him one every year, but I love the little Halloween one. So
yes, I want like the ones with the witches like dancing around the moon. I'm like, I need this for the center of my town.
Yes, everything. Oh my gosh. So it's getting me so excited. Like I'm
usually like I start buying in like July and then like probably like decorating like September or like a little bit before September.
Yeah. So my birthday's the beginning of September. So it's usually like, hey, this is how I want it decorated. So
yes. And you can pull the birthday card if anyone says anything to you. Be like, well, it's my birthday. You know.
This is what I wanted for my birthday.
This is my wish. Can you say no to that? I mean,
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, I have had so much fun having you on and like talking about true crime and just being like absolute Halloween junkies.
Yes.
So every time I start to wrap up a show, we're gonna have to like get you on like a couple more episodes because I feel like we could definitely tackle some more like true crime.
Oh, absolutely. I know a lot of things.
Yes. So I was like, we could do like the haunted true crime cases and like we'll just tag team them.
Yes. I love that.
But so at the end of every podcast, my little slogan is I always say, until next time, let's get weird. So I always ask my guests to join in with me. So until next time, let's get weird. Thank you so much for being on. And
absolutely.
All my listeners.
So much fun.
Get used to Rachel because she's definitely going to be on more. Because I mean, she's a Halloween queen. So yes. You've now been deemed. I'm going to put the crown virtually on top of your head.
Thank you.
But yeah, thank you so much for joining me. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon.
All right. Thank you.